The last photograph on the roll was blurry, overexposed, taken at night in the snow by hands that were probably already shaking from the cold. No one knows who pressed the shutter. No one knows what they were pointing the camera at. But something made them aim the lens into the darkness. This is File 0037, the Dyatlov Pass Incident, the case the Soviet government tried to erase. In late January of 1959, a group of 10 young hikers set out from the city of Sverdlovsk, deep in the Soviet Union. They were students and recent graduates of the Ural Polytechnic Institute, experienced, well-equipped, led by 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, who had organized the trip as a Grade 3 expedition, the highest difficulty rating. Their destination, Autopsy, a remote peak in the northern Ural Mountains. The plan was a 17-day trek through some of the most desolate wilderness in Russia. One member, Yuri Yudin, turned back on January 28 due to joint pain. He would be the only one to survive. The remaining 9 pressed north. They kept a group diary and took photographs. The weather worsened. And then, on February 1st, they made a decision that no one has ever been able to fully explain. Instead of camping in the treeline a mile and a half away, where they would have been sheltered from the wind, they pitched their tent on the exposed slope of a mountain called Kholat Syakhl. In the language of the Mansi people, the indigenous group of the northern Urals, Kholat Syakhl means dead mountain. Sometime during the night of February 1st, something happened inside that tent. We will never know exactly what, but we know what the 9 hikers did next. They cut open the tent from the inside, not unzipped it, cut it. Slashed through the canvas with a knife. And then they ran, into the darkness, into temperatures of -30 degrees Celsius. Some of them were in their underwear, some had no shoes. They ran toward the treeline downhill, 1.5 kilometers from their tent, and then one by one they died. The search party was dispatched on February 20th, 8 days after Dyatlov had failed to send the expected telegram. On February 26th they found the tent, collapsed, half buried in snow, ripped open from the inside. The first bodies were found near a large cedar tree at the edge of the forest. 2 of them, Krivonishenko and Doroshenko, were in their underwear. Bark was found under their fingernails. They had climbed the tree desperately before they died. 3 more bodies were found between the cedar and the tent. Dyatlov himself, Kolmogorova, Slobodin, scattered along the slope as if they had been trying to crawl back to the tent but never made it. The official cause of death for these 5, hypothermia, but the investigation was far from over. 2 months later, in May, they found the remaining 4, buried under 4 meters of snow in a ravine 75 meters from the cedar tree. And their injuries changed everything. Lyudmila Dubinina had massive chest fractures. Her ribs were broken on both sides, and her tongue was missing. Her eyes were gone. Semyon Zolotayev, the oldest member of the group at 38, a World War II veteran who had joined the expedition at the last minute, had bilateral rib fractures and a crushed chest. Thyborks Brignoles had a catastrophic skull fracture. The force required to cause these injuries was compared to a car crash, but here is the detail that has haunted investigators for over 60 years. There were no external wounds, no cuts, no bruises on the surface that matched the devastation underneath. Whatever killed them came from a force that crushed them from the outside in without breaking the skin. And then there was the radiation. 2 of the hikers' garments tested positive for beta radiation. The lead investigator, Lev Ivanov, had specifically requested a Geiger counter, which was not standard equipment for a missing persons case. Why he asked for one has never been explained. In May of 1959, Soviet authorities closed the investigation. The official conclusion, and I want you to hear exactly how they worded this: the hikers died as a result of exposure to, quote, an unknown compelling force which they were unable to overcome, end quote. The case files were sealed, classified, they would remain so for more than 30 years. Theories have multiplied in the decades since. An avalanche is the current official explanation, supported by a 2021 study from Swiss researchers who modeled a specific type of delayed slab avalanche that could account for the injuries. The physics work, the conditions, they argue, were right, but critics point out that no avalanche debris was found at the scene. The slope angle was below the typical threshold. And experienced hikers would not have camped where they did if avalanche risk was apparent. Others blame the Soviet military. Other hikers in the area that night reported seeing glowing orange orbs in the sky. One of the dead hikers, Krivonishenko, had worked at the Mayak nuclear facility, the site of a catastrophic nuclear accident just 2 years earlier. Was the radiation on their clothing from a weapon test, from contaminated clothing he brought with him? No one knows. There is the infrasound theory. Specific wind conditions over the mountain's shape could have generated low-frequency sound waves known to cause panic, nausea, and even hallucinations in humans. This would explain the mass exodus from the tent, the primal, irrational flight into the killing cold. But it does not explain the crushed ribs. And then there is Semyon Zolotayev, the oldest, the outsider, a man whose background was murky at best. Some researchers believe he may have been a KGB informant. He joined the group at the last minute. He had tattoos whose meanings have been debated for decades. Was he there to watch them? Was the expedition a cover for something else? In 2019, Russian prosecutors reopened the investigation. Their conclusion, avalanche, the families were not satisfied, the researchers were not satisfied, the mystery community was not satisfied. Because the thing about Dyatlov Pass is that every answer raises a new question. The avalanche explains the injuries but not the radiation. The military test explains the radiation but not the injuries. The infrasound explains the panic but not the missing tongue. The only survivor, Yuri Yudin, the man who turned back because of sore joints, spent the rest of his life searching for answers. He visited the site in 2008. He studied the files after they were declassified. He died in 2013 without ever learning the truth. And the last photograph, the blurry one taken in the dark by someone who was about to die, remains unexplained. Some see lights, some see nothing. Some see exactly what they are afraid to see. The case files of the Dyatlov Pass incident carry a classification that was only partially lifted. 67 years later, parts of the record remain sealed. Some mysteries are not solved. They are simply reclassified. This has been File 0037 from the archives.